Dominique Lomax, a mother, a daughter, a sister. The 27-year-old was identified this week as the woman who was found burned on the side of the road at Holmes and Sweeney.
Well, as you can imagine, she's grieving, she's traumatized, but she says there's passion in the need to find the killer of Dominique Lomax.
He has done something to just rock my world, and I'll never be able to get over my daughter lost until he's put away.
27-year-old Dominique Lomax had a questionable relationship with her boyfriend, Deondre Jones. On September 4th, 2023, Deondre dropped Dominique off at Highland Meadows apartments on Airways Boulevard in Memphis, Tennessee, to meet a man named Rico, who was supposedly an old friend of hers with a lot of money. After Deondre dropped Dominique off at that apartment complex, she vanished and was never seen again. 2 days later, her body was found near a Tennessee airport, about a mile and a half away from where she was last seen alive. She had been set on fire and was found burning by a passerby who called 911. The state of Dominique's body triggered many questions. Who was this stranger she met named Rico? And was Deondre really Dominique's boyfriend who just happened to drop her off to her death? Or was something more sinister involved? Let's find out in the story of Dominique Lomax, the 27-year-old who was pimped by her boyfriend, then set on fire.
He's done a monstrous crime. He has done a crime that he needs to be locked away and thrown away and, put away 24 and 7 actually.
Dominique Lomax was a 27-year-old mother to a son. She was described by the people who knew and loved her as the life of the party. But while she could party like there was no tomorrow, Dominique was also very thoughtful, caring, and full of life.
She described her daughter as the life of the party and someone who cared for any and everyone.
She was said to be the type of person who showed care and consideration to any and everybody, no matter where they were from or what they looked like. Her love knew no bounds, and it was always given freely. Dominique had a kind spirit. She was a very friendly person who could strike a conversation with anyone at any time. That probably came from growing up in a large family. But while Dominique turned out to be an awesome human being, there's evidence to suggest that she didn't have the best situation growing up. A message her sister posted about their mother on Facebook gives an insight into how they grew up, revealing that things weren't rosy and they might have experienced some very harsh realities. Her sister posted, "Honestly, I don't think me and my mom was supposed to cross paths in this lifetime. But then again, her mistakes may be my guidance on what not to do. I'm not bashing my mom, I love her. It's just some shit I could have lived WO, or maybe she could have been nicer and not projected her childhood anger on her kids. We don't get to choose the families that we're born in. Sometimes all we can do is make the best of what we were given." And it looks like that's what Dominique and her siblings tried to do. Dominique had a very close relationship with her siblings. Their somewhat strained relationship with their mother might have been what created their very close bond, but they would always call to check in with each other, making sure each other knew they were loved. But unfortunately, one of those check-ins by Dominique's sister unveiled a dark and sinister crime that rocked the city of Memphis and shattered Dominique's family. On September 5th, 2023, Dominique's sister called her cell phone to check in on her like she usually did, except this time around, something very unusual happened. A man picked up the cell. Dominique's sister was initially shocked that a strange man was answering Dominique's cell, but she quickly recovered from the shock and started asking the right questions. The man explained to her that he had found the Samsung Galaxy phone while he was doing some yard work. Dominique's sister knew immediately something had gone horribly wrong. Dominique was very attached to her phone. It just didn't make sense that she would just toss it or lose it.
Lomax's sister previously told WREG that her sister's phone was tossed about 2 miles away from the complex. Police say a stranger found the phone while cleaning his yard.
Her phone was thrown out in Mill Branch at Holmes Road. I was just calling to check on her, and they was like, "We just found this phone. My sister don't leave her phone."
She quickly arranged with the stranger to pick up the phone, and once she had the phone with her, she and the rest of their family called the authorities to report Dominique missing. Within 24 hours of Dominique being reported missing, her boyfriend came forward to say that he had been the last one to see her alive. He told the authorities that he had dropped off Dominique at around 4:30 to 5 a.m. at Highland Meadows apartments in Whitehaven the previous day, September 4th, 2023. He also told officers that Dominique had told him that she was going to meet one of her very old friends named Rico, a man she hadn't seen or connected with in a long time.
Lomax's family reported her missing September 5th. Her boyfriend claimed he dropped her off early the day before to meet a man named Rico at Highland Meadows apartments in Whitehaven.
Now he told officers that he didn't know who Rico was, nor had he seen him. He just dropped Dominique off and went on his way. According to him, the last he ever heard from Dominique was a text she sent him, telling him she was about to go into a place, but when he replied, asking her where she was going into, she never responded.
He says she texted him she was walking in somewhere and never responded to his message asking where.
Investigators assigned to the case then went on to speak with the man who had found Dominique's phone, hoping they could get more information from him, but they couldn't get much. He had just found the phone. He didn't know who owned it, nor did he see who tossed it there. But he did have one thing to say that caught the investigators' attention. He told them that before Dominique's sister's call came in, someone else had called the phone, a man. He told investigators the man had made plans with him to come get the phone from him, but when the time they agreed on came, the man was a no-show. This information stood out to the investigators. Whoever had called had to have known Dominique and had some interest in finding the phone. But then why would the person not turn up to retrieve it? But that wasn't all. Something else confused the investigators, leading to more questions than answers. If the man had known Dominique, why did he not reach out to her family or the authorities to tell them her phone had been found by a stranger? The investigators had questions, but the answers would prove elusive. In fact, for some questions, they never got the answers to at all, but they moved ahead with the investigation. They immediately classified Dominique's disappearance as a missing person case and released her information to all the relevant police departments all over Tennessee, as well as the relevant websites. Dominique's family were also doing all they could to find her. They made missing person flyers that contained all of Dominique's information on it: her height, hair color, the outfit she was wearing when she was last seen, and the area she was last seen in. They also added a paragraph with information Dominique's boyfriend had supplied to the investigators, which included the text she had sent him and the man she had been going to see, Rico. These missing person flyers were pasted all over the city. It was also pasted on social media as well as websites that dealt with missing persons. But after a full day, they had no tips, no clues, and no leads to work on.
We are devastated. We don't have any leads to where she would be.
It was still only the first day though, so everyone was optimistic but a bit cautious. If she had been taken by force, they knew the first 48 hours is critical, as the chances of finding her reduces significantly if she's not found within the first 48 hours. But by the next day, a discovery was made. A discovery that would alter the course of the case and send chills down everyone's spines.
2 days later, Memphis fire showed up to something burning on the side of Swinney Road near Holmes Road. Once the flames were out, they realized it was a body.
On September 6, 2023, 2 days after Dominique vanished, a horrific discovery was made. A passerby driving near a Tennessee airport noticed fire burning just off the side of the road. He couldn't see what was burning, but it was a wooded area, so the passerby called the Memphis Fire Department just in case the fire escalated. When the fire department arrived at the scene, they immediately started putting out the fire. But after the fire was completely out, they found more than they bargained for.
Around 4:30 Wednesday morning, officers responded to a fire along Swinney. After the flames were put out, investigators say they located a woman's body.
The firefighters realized that underneath the debris from the fire was a body. The body had been scorched beyond recognition, so Memphis PD was called to the scene.
Human remains are discovered after a fire was put out near the airport area early this morning.
Firefighters called police after that discovery.
Upon observation, it was clear that it was a homicide case, and the body was transported to the morgue, where a DNA analysis was done on the body to try to identify the woman. It wasn't long before news got to Dominique's family, and they were faced with instant fear that the body found was Dominique. Her body had been found only 1.5 miles away from the location she was last seen, and so as much as they didn't want it to be her, they could not deny the strong possibility that it would be her.
A horrific discovery near the airport area. Human remains found burned in a grassy area on Swinney Road near Holmes Road. The finding coming as family members searched high and low for missing mother, Dominique Lomax.
They immediately contacted Memphis PD, wanting to know if they had identified the woman and if it was Dominique.
The victim hasn't been identified, but Lomax is wondering if it's her sister.
My mom want to know where her daughter is. We want to know where she is. Her son want to know. If this crime scene is my sister, we deserve to know.
The information they were looking for was both the best and possibly worst information they would ever receive, because as much as they hoped it wasn't her, if it turned out to be her, they would at least have answers to where she was.
She's been missing since 5, almost 4:30 Monday morning. And we just want her to come home.
While Memphis PD couldn't yet give them the information they were looking for, they did confirm that the body that had been found was a woman's body.
Police were able to confirm that the remains found are those of a woman. Now, this coming as a family searches for a missing mother last seen in that same area.
This only made things worse for Dominique's family members, as the possibility the body was her was getting stronger with every information they learned about it. But unfortunately for them, not long after, a positive ID was made, and it turned out the body had been Dominique. Her family were heartbroken, to say the least.
Part of me kind of already knew. Like I said, after she had been gone for surplus of time.
Dominique Lomax, a mother, a daughter, a sister. The 27-year-old was identified this week as the woman who was found burned on the side of the road at Holmes and Sweeney.
And although they had found her, this only left them with more questions than answers. Who would do such a horrible thing to Dominique, and why?
We told you last week about her disappearance, and today we learned the body found burned on Sweeney near Holmes last week was her.
The next step of the investigation was to figure out how Dominique was unalived. It was very clear that the person who unalived her had tried to set her on fire so as to hide the evidence of his horrific act. She was sent to the coroner's office for an autopsy to be done. A week after her body was found, the coroner released the result of his findings.
An autopsy report completed here revealed what her family believed initially a week ago when that body was found burning on the side of the road in Whitehaven.
The result of the autopsy revealed that Dominique had been fired at close range, and was likely already gone before she was then set on fire. That information brought some comfort to Dominique's family. It was nice to know that she hadn't gone through immeasurable agony before passing away. With a cause of death, investigators quickly began to piece together the movements that led Dominique to the side of the road she was found. Had she been unalived there, or was she unalived somewhere else and only dumped there? The fire made it hard to have a definite answer to that question, as whatever evidence that might have been left behind that could have given investigators some insight was consumed by the fire. Though they didn't have a lot to start with, they were determined to get to the bottom of the investigation and find whoever did this to Dominique.
Who killed the Memphis mother and tried to cover it up by setting her body on fire? That's what Memphis police are working to uncover for the family of Dominique Lomax.
Beginning with CCTV footage. The CCTV footage of the apartment complex where Dominique's boyfriend claimed he dropped her off provided a lot of information for investigators. On the footage, they could see Dominique walking to Rico's car, and what's more, the CCTV also caught some part of Rico's face, which made him easily identifiable. It wasn't long before they found Rico and invited him for questioning. He claimed he had sat in his car with Dominique and caught up on old times, but that wasn't all. He also claimed he was not the last person to see Dominique alive. According to him, Dominique had left him that morning, and he had watched her get into a blue car. He gave a description of the car to investigators, and they began the work of finding the car, hoping to find the owner right with it. But in the meantime, they continued their investigation, which included talking to people who were awake at the apartment complex and could have seen something. And this is where they get a massive break in the case. A few of the people living at that apartment complex had actually seen something on the morning of September 4th, being attacked as she was walking and forced into a car. When they were asked to describe the man they saw attacking Dominique, the description they gave matched one person, Dominique's boyfriend. Though this was a break in the case, there were still more questions than answers. To start with, Dominique's boyfriend was not caught on CCTV footage attacking her, so it was really his word against the word of a few people. And second of all, Dominique and her boyfriend had not been having any trouble, at least to her family's knowledge. But as the investigation went on, a narrative began to emerge, a chilling narrative that might provide an understanding for the awful attack Dominique had suffered. Investigators invited Dominique's boyfriend in for an interview. They had hoped to have a timeline of her death by the end of that interview, but Dominique's boyfriend stuck to his previous statement like glue. He insisted that he had dropped Dominique off at that apartment complex to see a man named Rico. This much check it out with the CCTV footage as well as Rico's recollection of events. But then Dominique's ex-boyfriend said he drove home and never heard from her again after that text. While investigators had no choice but to let him go because there wasn't enough evidence tying him to the crime, Dominique's family were not very inclined to believe his story. They suspected that he knew more than he was telling investigators.
However, Lomax's sister believes he knows her whereabouts and says someone tossed her phone.
It struck her family members as weird that a man would willingly drop off his girlfriend at another man's house without any hassle. This led them to question his motives for dropping her off at Rico's. Was he looking for the perfect cover for the crime he had planned out in advance? Or did she drop her off for another reason? A reason that might have to do with him receiving payment for whatever service Dominique was supposed to render to Rico. Though Dominique's boyfriend had told investigators that Rico was Dominique's old friend, and they had planned to reconnect on that day, a version of the story collaborated by Rico himself, Dominique's family were not buying it. To them, a lot of things simply didn't add up.
I think that that's a very flawed story. I think that a lot of what's being stated in that police report doesn't add up.
But the investigation was still ongoing, so they didn't have their answers, and depending on how long it takes for investigators to conclude their investigation, they might not have their answers for a while. In the meantime, Dominique's family decided to focus on burying their daughter. They were forced to make the difficult calls to inform other family members of Dominique's passing.
She just told me, it was like, baby, I don't know if somebody told you, but, you know, the body they found out on Whitehaven, it's your sister. The injustice, the fact that my nephew has to find out that his mom didn't die from a terminal illness, that she was brutally murdered, and somebody set her corpse on fire.
For Dominique's brother, what he would miss most was being able to call his sister and receive advice and words of encouragement from her.
I really don't know what I would do if I couldn't go home to my son. So, you know, just the same thing with my nephew, like, money hurt.
He also blamed himself for not being able to be there for Dominique, like she had been there for him countless of times. He remembered the time he was about to welcome his son into the world, how Dominique had been there for him, offering support and wisdom.
I was telling her about like how nervous I was, how scared I was. Man, she had more faith in me than I had in myself. I appreciate it. That's one of the reasons why I feel like I failed her. Like, I could have did more.
Many of Dominique's family members felt like they felt her, including her brother. You see, Dominique was the rock in everyone's life. She held them all down and didn't hesitate to fly into action if any one of them needed help. Something they felt like they couldn't do for her when she needed it the most.
I do feel like I failed her, and I do want to say I'm sorry, and I wish I would have been there. I know I appear to be strong right now, but, you know, I've had moments of just incremental crime.
Her family planned a memorial and a balloon release service to celebrate the woman that she was.
Now you could see how the turnout was tonight. It shows just how much Dominique Lomax was loved. Dozens of people gathered holding green balloons and also pleaded for justice and urged anyone with information to reach out to police.
The family and friends.
Dominique's mother spoke about her daughter at the balloon release service. She said she wanted people to remember Dominique for more than how she died, but how she lived too.
She says what she wants people to remember most is that how Dominique died is not the life that she lived.
Many of Dominique's friends and family members gathered to share all their favorite memories of her and say goodbye to the woman they loved, the woman who so very clearly had an impact on all of them.
There were candles lined in the middle saying Forever 27, and people embraced, sharing tears, hugs, and overall sadness.
At the service, Dominique's mother took the opportunity to leave a message for whoever had taken the life of her daughter.
He's done a monstrous crime. He has done a crime that he needs to be locked away and thrown away and, you know, put away 24 and 7 actually.
He had taken the light that was Dominique away from her, and by doing so, altered the course of her life forever.
He has done something to just rock my world, and I'll never be able to get over my daughter lost until he's put away.
She took the opportunity to let everyone know she would not rest until her daughter's attacker was facing the punishment for his crime.
You set my daughter on fire. You put her in the woods. Just treated her like she was nothing when she was well loved and still well loved. This isn't over. This isn't over. It may have been 1 week, But believe me, in that 1 week, she's gonna get what she's deserved. She's gonna get justice. And I promise you that. I'm not gonna let this go until my baby has victory over this.
Dominique's family also used that opportunity to put pressure on investigators to provide them with the truth of what happened to Dominique.
Dozens of her family and friends came to Overton Park tonight to remember her and demand action.
They thanked the community for their constant thoughts and prayers, saying they hoped people would come forward with information that could help them catch whoever had unalived Dominique.
We deserve to know what's going on. We deserve to know why. And we deserve to know that these people need to be in jail. She needs justice.
It doesn't matter who you are and what you know. Any little piece of information helps my family. My family is hurting. We are broken. We are devastated. We are upset. And we just really want answers from my sister.
They also created a GoFundMe page to help raise funds to help them fight for justice for Dominique and take care of her son, who they hadn't yet told his mom would never be coming home. After searching for more than X days, we are heartbroken to find out that our sister Dominique was murdered. Dominique leaves behind a son who will not understand that his mother was brutally murdered and her body was burned. We are desperately waiting to hear details of what really happened to our sister. What we do know is that her ex-boyfriend claims to have dropped her off at another man's house at 5 a.m., and she was never heard from again. Something is wrong with this story, and we will be fighting for justice every day for her. We know you don't have to help, but if you can give anything to help us, bury our sister with dignity and support her son, who doesn't even know yet that his mom isn't coming back, we would greatly appreciate it. Hey, thank you for watching. Our deepest sympathies go to the family and friends of Dominique Lomax. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you know of other similar cases? Let me know in the comments section, and before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you next time, and stay safe.